Okay, we are live on Facebook, Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Telegram. We have a breaking story for you tonight, folks. This is guaranteed to be the biggest story of the freaking decade. Holy shit, maybe even the century. Signalgate, the real Signalgate, not the fake narrative spun last spring by the Democrats. Signalgate, Peggy Flanigan R.I.C.O corruption exposed. And we're also going to be going over the video footage of the shooting the other day and looking at a couple different legal perspectives from both sides and do an objective analysis on that and what the law says and assess the whole situation and come to a conclusion. So, that being said, let's get right into it. I'm going to start off with our first video. Let me share my screen real quick. Go share sound. Okay. All right. Let me know if you can hear this, Robin.
Yep, hear it.
All right, good to know. Here we go. This is from day before yesterday. This is I believe the video footage of the woman in pink that was recording on the sidewalk of the shooting of Alex Preddy. Here we go.
Go. What the fuck is wrong with you? The fuck, people? The fuck is wrong with you? Honestly. The fuck did you just do? What the fuck did you just do? What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god! 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 The fuck did you just do? The fuck did you just do? Somebody call the ambulance! Somebody call the ambulance! Somebody needs to call the ambulance! Somebody call 911! I can't believe they just did that! Holy shit! Holy shit! Just get come on! Come on! Oh my god, you fucking people, man! You're fucking killing us! Why would you do that? Oh my god! Oh my god! I can't believe I'm seeing this! I can't believe I'm seeing this! Come on, come on, come on, come here, come on! Come here. It is. This is
That was a lot. Now, we also have an updated angle showing what occurred afterwards from a different angle, and I believe. Oh yeah, that's it. That was it. That was the scene right there we saw from the other angle. That we're about to see from the other angle, where the agent comes in, slips on the ice. to render aid. Okay, I'm glad I caught that. That's what I wanted to find. All right, so here we go. This came out today, just after midnight. It looks like. No. That's when I posted it, I believe. Or no, that's maybe. Let's see what he did. 6:52 p.m. yesterday. So that's when this was released. Okay. I'm just going to read this real quick and then we're going to watch it. Alex Preddy. New video emerges. This video single-handedly destroys much of the leftist narrative being spread on social media. Also claims that a physician was attempting to help and was denied moments after. That appears to be false. This is moment after the shooting. Federal officers are trying to clear the weapon and render media assistance. I'll say that again. Federal officers are looking for the gun that Alex fully believing in it was in his hand or on his person. You know what? I should have played the video first, but whatever. We'll just play the video next. Why is this important? Whether you agree or disagree with the shooting, we can all agree that this was a chaotic situation and heavily fueled by narrative rhetoric. Alex was resisting the officers, which turned out to be a horribly bad decision. Your fight is not with the cops, it is in the courts. He made it to his knees and was reaching around his waistband. No one knows his intention, and I won't speculate. Although from the officer's perspective, this is a direct threat to them. Officer said gun, then immediately after gunfire occurs. The officer's reaction was to neutralize the threat. As unfortunate as that is. We learned after the fact that an officer came up into scuffle and grabbed the firearm and seemingly misfired. Still unconfirmed, but most likely situation, and I happen to agree with that based on everything that I've seen. But we're going to show the video next. That officer cleared the gun and failed to announce that he cleared the firearm. From the videos analyzed, no officer saw the weapon removed. After gun is announced, officers draw, and a second later, the misfire is when they engage. It is tragic, and in the midst of the chaos, someone lost their life. Who is to blame? Blame the violent leftist rhetoric that is fueling this. Blame the politicians who egg this on and urge people to resist ICE, to track their every move and interfere with federal investigations. Blame the Waltz administration, Mayor Frey, and all local government calling for resistance to ICE and federal operations. Here we go. So we heard that. Now I'm gonna read the comment, what I put, what I heard, because I did a requote or quote, tweet, or whatever you want to call it these days, a post. You can clearly hear one of the officers say, "Where's the fucking gun?" at 5 seconds, and "Where's the gun?" at 6 seconds. At 12 seconds, he says, "I need scissors. I need someone to cut this shit." At 17 seconds, and excuse my language, folks, but I'm just being factually accurate. Another agent, presumably one with scissors or proper cutting tool, comes rushing over, slips on the ice, gets back up immediately and starts cutting the clothing off Alex Preddy in an attempt to give life-saving aid. This is standard procedure, by the way. Before you hear another agent say, "We have a medical emergency," at 24 seconds. Clearly, the mainstream media is lying and trying to stoke more division. Fun fact, they are in on the lying. They are in on it and they are lying. Stop believing the MSM people. All they do is lie, lie, lie. So we're going to listen to it again, and I'm going to point out the mark. Well, I'm sure you guys will be able to hear it too. So yeah, 5 seconds, then 6, and then we'll get to that next. Where's the fucking gun? Right there at 4 seconds to 5. Excuse my language. That's what it sounds like to me. Okay, so go back to 4. Where's the fucking gun? That's what it sounds like. Where's the gun?
Gun's gone. He's got the gun.
I need scissors. I need someone to cut this shit. I need to. Yep. And what was the other one? 17? There we go. He hit that ground hard when he smacked it. Oh, wow. It sounded like that hurt. 24. Medical emergency. Yep. 24. Medical emergency. Wow. Did you guys all hear it? So, I mean, I think everybody heard all those clips pretty clear. That's the second video. Now we're gonna watch an analysis from Don't Believe the Government. This was murder. This is by Combat Veteran News, and this is one person's perspective on this. But we're gonna look at a couple other videos as well. So let's get started with this one. We're gonna watch them, and then we're gonna talk about it all after once we get through all the pre-recorded content and video that we're gonna go through and articles, and then we'll talk about it at the end.
ICE officers operating in Minneapolis have shot and killed a U.S. citizen. And while that alone is disturbing, the video footage of the shooting is irrefutably cold-blooded murder. And what's even more, another insane layer to this, is the White House's reaction. Now, before you tune off and go, oh, this is some liberal lunatic, you may notice, for those of you that are new to the channel, behind me are a large number of military awards. That's because I served in Afghanistan as a platoon leader of a military police platoon. So believe it or not, I have a unique background in both law enforcement and even combat operations with real world experience to back it up. I also have 7 years in the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General's office doing essentially internal affairs investigations. So I actually know what I'm talking about. And seeing this stuff, it is deeply disturbing to me. So let me break down the fundamental problems I have with the shooting, and then we're going to compare the video that we see to what the administration claims has happened. And we're going to see if we can do so and keep our sanity. So let's break this down. Again, the video is becoming increasingly hard to find unedited, but we're going to do a couple of things. So let's start with this one. This is probably one of the earliest segments of the confrontation that I can find. It's filmed from a passing car. The person shot Alex Peretti, and I'm deliberately choosing words so that you are less likely to be biased. This is something that a relatively impartial investigator would do. The shooter and shooting victim, or man who was shot, is what you might say in a report. So this is the man who is shot in the video. His name is Alex Peretti. He's a registered nurse at the Veterans Affairs Hospital in Minneapolis. And for context, he has a legal permit, a concealed carry permit. So he has a firearm on his person right now that is legal in the United States, legal in the state of Minnesota. So let's take a look. You can see here, he appears to be holding a cell phone and speaking with an individual wearing a multicam plate carrier, likely an ICE officer. You can see that this passing motorist observes that there is some kind of ICE operation taking place on the opposite side of the street. But this agent, another officer, excuse me, here's the problem also. The fact that all of these guys are wearing civilian clothes continues to bother me because ICE has officers and Border Patrol has agents. And the distinction is not meaningless. They have very different legal authorities. Again, neither of them involve enforcement actions against U.S. citizens, certainly, and no law enforcement officer of the government has the authority to simply arrest or detain citizens merely for filming. That's protected by the First Amendment, which ensures freedom of the press. So you can see these agents get out. They seem to be speaking to Mr. Peretti, and they put a hand in his chest and begin to push him back towards the sidewalk. Again, this may be ICE officers. Again, I'm going to refer to them as ICE officers. I'm not actually sure if they're ICE or Border Patrol because of the lack of identification, but they push him back towards the sidewalk, possibly stating, hey, you can't be in the street. This is interfering with an operation. And he complies. You see him walking backwards onto the sidewalk, following their, gentle shove, we'll say. Now, let's cut to the next video I could see. Here is a slow motion video covering more of the events. So you can see now, Peretti has been pushed back to the sidewalk. The object in his hand, very clearly a phone. And you can see here is another protester who is accompanying Peretti. Peretti appears to be trying to hold her steady on the sidewalk due to the slipperiness. Now, here the officer shoves a person. Peretti steps in between him and a woman, and you can see the officer discharges his what we in the military called OC spray, mace. Now, I want to add an important piece of context here. Being sprayed with OC spray or pepper spray or mace, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to use OC spray because that's the term, the technical term we used in the military. And it is an extremely disorienting experience. It is effectively blinding. It is extremely painful. And it is required, in fact, to carry it in most law enforcement agencies, including in the Department of Defense, within the military police corps. You have to get sprayed with it in order to carry it. So you understand both what you are doing to people, but also if the discharge, the irritant, comes back at you, you have to understand the cognitive effects of it so that you aren't crippled by it. And when we did the training, again, you can, if you are prepared and focused, lock in, you can remain oriented enough to protect yourself, protect your equipment, continue to operate. But you have to do so with a certain level of training. You have to get some coursework on what you'll experience. For most people who are pepper sprayed, in order to continue to operate, they actually have to peel their eyes open physically with their hand in order to continue to see. You still have just your tears in overdrive. What I want you guys to understand is every subsequent video you see, Alex is unbelievably disoriented and effectively blinded, right? And in extreme pain, right? So you can see here, Alex is turning away. He's not a threat. Again, the only thing we've observed Alex doing so far is filming with his phone and complying with an officer's directions to get back. So the officer sprays him, actually swats his hand down and continues to spray him in his face, even as he turns away. Pepper spray is not really meant for this. It's not a compliance tool. It is a less lethal tool to give officers a opportunity to use a tool that isn't lethal force to protect themselves. But protect themselves from what? That is unclear. Clearly, Alex has turned away, and the officer continues to actually shove his mace into Alex's face and spray it. At this point, Alex is blind and in extreme pain. Or falls to slip on, and the ICE agents begin to swarm on Alex. Now, this individual in the gray coat, I think it's worth noting, this individual is identified later as an ICE agent. But again, in the footage that we see, he has almost none of it. It really is very difficult to see who this person is. Now, here is some stabilized video of subsequent parts of the confrontation. So Alex is on the ground. His shirt has been hiked up, and it reveals that there is a holstered firearm here. Now, again, the Second Amendment and repeated case law going up to the Supreme Court says that it's completely authorized. But what's important is that Alex's hands are on the ground. He is on his knees. The weapon is holstered. And we observed that even as he was being pepper sprayed, he was holding his phone and he was turning his hand away, never going for his waistband. So again, let's continue to look here. So what do we just observe? You observe that one agent actually doing the appropriate thing. When you observe a gun and you're detaining a suspect, you, as the officer or agent, officer, get control of the firearm immediately. So they get positive control of the weapon. It's holstered. It's remaining holstered. The agent has it. The other agent draws his firearm. Now, so far, neither of these interactions are inappropriate, right? Securing a weapon, telling other agents there's a weapon present, and drawing your firearm to say, hey, we already moved through pepper spray. Now I'm going to draw my firearm, as that's kind of the next level up. And it's not required, by the way, guys. You don't have to pepper spray someone before using a applying lethal force, you as an officer, like, you always have the right to protect yourself and the lives of others. But that is the thing I want you to keep in mind here. This man is on the ground. The firearm is secured. And then, observe, this is key. The probably officer in the gray coat has secured the weapon. The weapon is secured. It has been pulled out from Alex. Alex's hands never touch the weapon because he is on the ground. He is blind. He's on the ground. He's disoriented. And he is completely unarmed. And after the firearm has been removed from Alex, he is shot. The firearm is secured. Observe the firearm here. Right? The agent draws his weapon. This is the thing to take away. Look, the weapon is secured. This agent observes Alex's weapon being removed. He observes Alex's weapon being removed from him. The agent is looking right at the gun, right? He watches another agent secure the firearm, and Alex is unarmed. He's on the ground. He's pepper sprayed and disoriented. We observe, look, there he is. There it is, right? We're talking about a non-trivial amount of time has passed, right? And then Alex's weapon is gone. The agent in full view of the weapon. It's not like the agent doesn't know where the weapon is. The weapon has been removed from Alex. Points his gun at the back of Alex's head and pulls the trigger. Alex staggers briefly. A second shot's fired. And Alex is killed. YouTube's going to demonetize this. Fuck you, YouTube. Fuck you. Understand that at no point did you see that man attempt to go for a firearm. At no point did the firearm leave the holster under the control of anyone other than an officer or agent, whoever they were, right? And the agent that fired the weapon knew that Alex was disarmed. I want you to understand that if, as a soldier in Afghanistan, in a literal war zone, if I disarm an enemy combatant, not a civilian, not a protester, an enemy combatant, a literal Taliban member, and I get them on their hands and knees, and I get control of the weapon, and I remove it from them, and then I shoot them, I am going to fucking jail because I am a war criminal, right? And that is under the law of war, of combat, okay? If I had killed Afghan civilians in this manner, I think my own soldiers would have arrested me. This is straight murder. There is no defense of this. I have none. None. Right? Perhaps a good lawyer could get this guy down to manslaughter to say, I didn't know the guy in the gray coat. I thought maybe he was a protester. But even if you thought the guy in the gray coat was a protester, why are you firing your gun at the guy who's been disarmed? You should fire your weapon, discharge your service weapon at the person who just is now armed. This is insane. But now I want you to understand, I want you to listen to the official statement by the Secretary of Homeland Security on what they claim has happened here.
This individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation at
a... Okay. Not true. Not true. We just, you and I just observed that person complying with that officer's directions as he pushed them back to the other side of the street. He was on the other side of the street of the operation, right? The officers pepper sprayed him after he appeared to step in front of him to film. But again, the officer was the one who initiated contact. Alex acquiesced, was pushed back on the street. This is absolutely false. He absolutely complied with the officer's directions.
Assaulted our officer.
Again, we observed that Alex did not assault the officer. The officer pepper sprayed Alex repeatedly.
They responded according to their training.
Their training does not tell them. I promise. I can't speak. I can only speak for the fact that I attended the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, the same training center where a large portion of ICE agents are trained, and that I covered some, as an inspector, handled a lot of use of force policies for ICE. I have not been to ICE's academy, so I can't say exactly what they are trained on. And that academy has also been revised heavily since I've left the federal government, so I can't speak to that. But what I can say is that there is no law enforcement agency I have ever heard of in this country, nor is there any military unit in the United States military that tells you that after you have disarmed someone, it is appropriate to shoot them once they no longer pose a threat to you. That is just not the case. Not when you have numbers, not when they are on the ground. Some agencies may tell you, hey, if you're a 96-pound female cop and it's a 300-pound bodybuilder and he's on top of you throwing fists, yeah, you can use lethal force to protect yourself. Not to a downed, controlled, incapacitated subject who has been disarmed.
And took action to defend the officer's life and those of the public around him. And I don't know of any peaceful protester that shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign.
Okay, this is, again, not true at all. One, because the official government stance is that everyone who was armed on January 6th was a peaceful protester. So she herself isn't even consistent with her lies. But also, the Second Amendment absolutely allows him to do so. He was absolutely allowed to do that under Minnesota law. And even those January 6th protesters, when they were outside the Capitol, they were completely within their rights to be armed. Some of them had some problems with DC law and magazine capacity and stuff, but the general principle was that they were fine. It wasn't until they, trespassed into the Capitol building and until they assaulted cops that they became criminals. Right. So again, she's unable to keep her own lies consistent.
This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with...
Did you observe violence from Alex? Did you observe violence from Alex? At any point, did Alex commit any violence against those officers?
Weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement.
Okay. Did Alex at any point use the firearm to assault a law enforcement officer? Did he ever draw it? And we watched the video. The only person who touched Alex's weapon in that entire interaction was the officer. Not once. Not even after he'd been pepper sprayed. This is insane. This is an insane level of... Actually, it is... The only thing more insane is the president's actual statement. He says, the gunman's gun loaded and ready to go. What was that all about? One, Alex is not a gunman because he didn't draw the gun. A gunman has to use the gun. What is it all about? It is about the Second Amendment, something that, again, President Trump has been a staunch advocate for. Also worth noting is that President Trump himself has repeatedly said that there are many violent agitators at these protests. And so it would make sense that if you live in a country with a Second Amendment, and the president himself has said there's a potential for violent agitators to infiltrate these peaceful protests, then perhaps Alex was taking a firearm to defend himself from the violence that the literal president has said goes on there. Then he asks, where are the local police? The local police cannot disarm someone who is standing on the sidewalk filming. They don't have that authority. They cannot simply delete the Second Amendment when it bothers them. Not local cops, not ICE, nobody. Why weren't they allowed to protect ICE officers? From what? What action did Alex take that threatened the ICE officers? Nothing. He complied with everything they appeared to ask him to do. Right? The mayor and governor called them off. I don't know what this is about. Many of these police were not allowed to do their job, and ICE had to protect themselves. To date, 0 ICE agents have been killed in Minneapolis, but many residents of Minneapolis have been killed by ICE agents conducting operations there. ICE and Border Patrol. Don't get your stuff right. ICE officers, Border Patrol agents. Even I screw it up because I'm pretty worked up about this. And then Trump proceeds to engage in a classic Soviet disinformation move. Whataboutism. He says, yeah, but what about Ilhan Omar, a congressman who, I don't know, who he alleges made a bunch of money while in Congress. Guys, if making money in Congress is a crime, then all of Congress should be in jail. And that's the suggestion. That's a suggestion and a recommendation. Then he asks where the tens of billions of dollars have been stolen from the great state of Minnesota. It's being recovered. The funds are being recovered now because all of the individuals, all of whom were U.S. citizens, that perpetrated the fraud are facing charges. So again, he claims billions of dollars missing. Again, it's not missing. They were located. Those individuals are on trial. Illegal criminals allowed to infiltrate the state through Democrats' open border policy. This is just lies. I don't know what else to tell you. Again, like some of them, I'm sure, some of the people ICE has obtained, mostly coming out of Minnesota jails, are are people with final orders of removal. But at most, say about 50% of these are individuals pending asylum claim with valid visas who have no criminal history. These things are just ridiculous. And then here's the killer. Trump actually outs himself. He posts the weapon, which he claims was loaded. It's been unloaded. But what's fascinating to me is that this allows us to identify the silver grip, lets us identify completely that that is the exact weapon that the ICE agent, or excuse me, the ICE officer or Border Patrol agent got their hands on. So we know that we have video that Alex was unarmed when he was shot in the back of the head, or in the back, right? And then he adds, if they were still there, you would see something far worse than you are witnessing today. This is untrue because, well, in 2024, Minneapolis was just a regular cold place. So this is absurd. Again, I showed you the video evidence of this absurdity. I showed you in contrast with the statements by the government. This was an execution that and by the way, guys, you can look. The Renee Good thing, I was incredibly not generous. I acknowledge that while the law enforcement officers made some mistakes there, they ultimately were in a situation where they had a split second to decide if they were in lethal danger or not. And this is not that case. And I suspect these agents, instead of rethinking their tactics and decision-making, asking themselves, hey, maybe these protesters, as much as I don't like them, still have First Amendment rights. They doubled down on their aggression because they were told by the vice president they have absolute immunity, because the agent that committed, or the ICE officer that committed the shooting of Renee Good didn't even face an investigation. The DOJ didn't even do an investigation to clear him. They're like, no investigation required, which implies that this is seen as routine and even commendable operations, which is just insane. I don't even know what to make of this. This is, how can you even claim to uphold the Constitution? I mean, this guy was doing constitutionally protected activities, backing away from law enforcement when they said he was like in the way of their operation, filming them, and engaging in protected speech. And then he gets pepper sprayed and then disarmed and then executed. It's insane. I don't know. Hit subscribe. Don't trust the government. I don't know what else to tell you.
Okay, so that one's done. Sorry I had to make you guys go through it, but I thought it was important to play the whole thing since that we went over it, and it may be a little long, but it's going to be telling, to say the least. So let's get into this one.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day brought to you by 5mind.com. Alright, well, holy frickin' crap. I may have been completely wrong, I have to admit. I may have been a bit quick to dismiss the accidental discharge theory. I released a video almost immediately as that theory picked up, I think 2 days ago, and I presented it as interesting, but I was seriously doubting it. But now, after careful consideration, I'm not saying it happened, but I'm saying I may have been completely wrong in my dismissal. After watching the slow-mo video, I mean really slowing it down frame by frame, and also bringing the video into editing software and being able to really zoom in, as well as analyzing some other details that I missed. I mean, I have analyzed this video in painstaking detail at this point. I gotta say, it's looking a whole lot more plausible, possibly even highly likely. And again, you know, this just goes to show the difference between what we're doing here on this channel and what the left is doing. They seem totally uninterested in really analyzing the details of what happened, understanding all the factors. No, they just want to jump to conclusions immediately, push a partisan spin, take advantage of the confusion, and then basically use it as a green light to sow chaos, to foment chaos on the streets. It's very obvious what's going on, at least on that side. It's also not exactly obvious what led to the shooting of Alex Preddy. And of course, finding the truth is the most important thing here. What led to that first shot being fired? Well, let's continue to delve down this theory. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so like I said in the intro, I've been watching this on slow motion over and over again, and I want to go over in painstaking detail every single element that I'm seeing here. Now, firstly, let's play that particular point in slow motion, and let me know in the comments what you see. If you can slide back and forth, I'll try to keep it relatively zoomed in. Now, when it just runs like that, you can't exactly see every element. So let's now freeze the frame or focus on a couple particular frames and go over every single element. Firstly, I think what's probably most obvious is it does appear, if you really zoom in, like the slide of the gun potentially cocked back as he was whipping the gun around, or possibly, if we freeze here actually, from this shot, I can't tell if it's the low quality nature of the video, if it's kind of like a little bit of a visual artifact or poorly projected pixels, or if it appears almost as if the gun is cocked back and you could see a little bit of the barrel. If we take this shot over here and compare it to the DOJ release of the confiscated pistol, well, it does seem to line up as if the slide is pulled back and the internal barrel component of the gun is what's visible. And as he whips the gun around, as it reaches kind of like the whip apex, it's almost as if the slide pushed forward. That's visual cue number one. That's the first element of evidence. Now, the second element, it's extremely quick, and I think it's only captured on one frame, and this is why I missed it initially. It does almost seem as if there's a small puff of smoke at the moment the gun is whipped back. Now, you'll notice it's really subtle, and again, it's hard to tell if it's some sort of, low-quality video fragmentation, but between these two frames on the video here, as the gun just barely crosses past his leg, it feels like it jumps up maybe an inch or two, and that appears to be some sort of gray matter coming out of the barrel. Maybe I could bring this into Photoshop really quick and kind of play with the colors and the contrast and make it a little bit clearer. When I boost the contrast, it is instantly visible. That does appear as if it's smoke coming out of the barrel. I'm not going to claim 100% that that's exactly what it is, but it certainly does look like it. And that's not the only factor, by the way. The next thing we have to look at is actually this item on the ground. It appears to be possibly a baseball cap, maybe some sort of black piece of cloth. It could actually be Alex Preddy's hat, if I'm not mistaken. Well, you'll notice right as that smoke goes off, the hat kind of pops up in the air. Some people are suggesting that it's the officer's foot that makes contact with the hat and causes it to do that. But if you look at the frame, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if he steps on it. And it's hard to tell whether him kind of barely grazing it with his foot there, or I guess compressing and pushing off with his foot, if that would make the cloth from the top of the hat pop up in the air like that. Question is that the impact from possibly a bullet being shot at it, on it, or in its near direction, near vicinity? I don't know, guys. Initially when I was looking at this video, I was looking for impact with the concrete, maybe some dust being created, although, there probably wouldn't be so much dust from a 9mm making impact with the concrete, especially frozen concrete, which I assume is a whole lot harder. But I guess all this to say, this is a plausible theory. And now the question is, were the officers who were involved in this encounter, in this situation, were they aware? Was the crime scene preserved? Where's that hat? Is there a bullet hole in that hat? Did it make contact directly with the hat? Is there bullet damage to the concrete at that specific area? The officer in question who has Alex Preddy's gun in his hand, what does he have to say? And of course, these are important questions to ask before coming to a conclusion. This is why investigating is so important. It's why you cannot jump to political conclusions, make all kinds of wild claims as if this guy was executed for political reasons just because, or he was unarmed and they knew it and they just shot him in the back for no reason. If you're jumping to that kind of conclusion instantaneously, you're obviously dishonest. Your opinions, frankly, I think should be immediately dismissed. What you're attempting to do is use a confusing situation to propagandize people. And really notice how the left doesn't want to engage in any of the actual debate. It's always the same thing with these people, right? The Kilmar Abrego Garcia case, I mean, every single case that has happened this year, all these high-profile cases, the children supposedly being deported, they never actually debate. They just make these big claims and push these big outrage campaigns all over social media, and here we are, pointing out a million different things, getting documents, getting evidence, but they don't engage with any of it. They don't address any of it. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. I haven't seen a single leftist even address the misfire issue, which is very real, by the way. It's well documented that this particular gun has major issues when it comes to misfiring, accidental discharges. I actually have a video here from YWO Gun Project, and well, I think it speaks for itself. I'll have to edit a couple parts because he keeps coughing and sniffing and, well, you know, doesn't make for a good presentation, but just take a look.
Put some input into the slide somewhere. Will it go off again? Will it release? Let's see. That's 3 in a row. Let me take the screw out. Number 4. Let's try it again. Let me show you. Fully functioning striker safety. All right. Should we do it with the magazine again? Let's put the magazine back in, and then we'll try the last one with the magazine out. Handy dandy trigger input tool. We are going to try to, again, we are roughly, as we saw on the tabletop, I'm guessing we're roughly 1 millimeter to less than 1 millimeter of engagement on that trigger. And let's see if we can get it to go off again.
Now, obviously, he kind of set up the right circumstance for the gun to go off, but it just goes to show, with barely any pressure at all, he pinched the gun, and it went off. That's absolutely wild. And who's to say that some of those factors weren't applicable here, that gun wasn't kind of primed in a way to mistakenly fire? But again, the left hasn't engaged with any of this. They're not waiting for any information either. I mean, we haven't even gotten body cam footage. I'm not sure if CBP or ICE have to wear body cam footage. I'm not sure if it's mandated, but it appears there might actually be some first-person perspective that was recorded. I got this post over here. Investigators are currently reviewing body-worn camera footage from the incident involving 37-year-old Alex Jeffrey Preddy and federal ICE and Border Patrol agents in Minneapolis, which has sparked significant national outrage. You know, just further making the point. We don't even have the full footage. We don't know what happened. We don't know what the officers were dealing with from a first-person perspective. We don't know exactly what was being said. We don't know exactly how hard Alex Preddy was resisting arrest. It's kind of hard to tell from the video footage, although it is clear that he was resisting. We don't know what they were looking at in respect to his arms kind of reaching for things, not to mention he had a cell phone in his hand. That's what's being alleged, which is a black object in your hand while you're armed. People are screaming, gun, gun, gun. What you should do is go freaking full Patrick Starfish mode on the ground, drop the freaking cell phone, and then you'll have no issues. So again, it's hard to say what the perceived threat was. And then, of course, the most important factor, that first shot. Where did it come from? We still don't know who shot that first shot. Was it one of the officers that was leaning over him and just shot him for no reason? That's what the left seems to imply. Was it potentially one of those officers who was looking at what was going on? People are yelling, gun, gun, he's got a gun. And then you see the guy potentially grabbing his holster, and that's what triggered the first shot? Or was it an accidental discharge from the back, which caused the rest of the ICE agents to kind of instinctively panic and start pulling the trigger? Well, we don't know. And yet the left is jumping to conclusions. The left is already rioting. They feel as though they have full-on justification to continue engaging in domestic terrorism across the country. And that, my friends, is obviously wrong. It's not justified. I mean, even based on the video footage that we have, it's totally not justified. And a lot of people see that.
Hey, yo, America, understand this. I'm a black man in America, right? I walk around with a 19 on my hip, a SIG in my glove compartment, and an AR-15 in my 2020 Honda Accord daily, right? And you know what I don't do with those things? I don't go and impede law enforcement carrying out their duties. You know what I do? I mind my business. And for some reason, I'm able to survive. Every single day, I'm able to come home, run my kids a bath, tuck them in, and continue to do my thing. No harm comes to me, no harm comes to my family. I also have a 12 gauge pump, away from the kids, of course, because, you know, you got to be a responsible pew pew owner, okay? And no harm comes to me and my family because I mind my business. I let the law do the law things. If I have beef, I petition my lawmakers. I don't go and take it out on law enforcement who are also citizens and Americans like me.
Even if it wasn't an accidental discharge, I mean, if we're talking about what the officers were dealing with in that situation, it may not have been the perfect use of force, but I think it could be argued legally that there was a perception of threat. There was resist to their lawful commands and their attempt to subdue him. He was armed. It led to confusion, and he unfortunately put himself in a situation that didn't exactly end well for him. Every way I cut this up, the path always leads to the same conclusion. It's unfortunate. It sucks. It's tragic. But these CBP officers are not murderers, at least based on what I'm seeing. If there's other evidence that suggests that this was malicious, a targeted hit, well, then we could have that conversation. But as of now, all roads lead to it's just an unfortunate circumstance that this individual put himself in. He committed multiple crimes, and yes, protecting a woman from the CBP agent, as the left is saying, that was in fact a crime, because you have lawful demands. They were telling you to get off the street. They were pushing the people off the street because they were not complying. And then he got in the way of those federal officers and put his hands on them and was fighting with them. You may say that he's just protecting the innocent women, but that is not legally justified. What he did was wrong because he was propagandized to believe that the CBP and ICE agents are these Gestapo force that are attacking and kidnapping people. He fell for the propaganda. Well, we live in the real world, not this leftist freaking fantasy world where the country is falling to fascism and Donald Trump's freaking stormtroopers must be fought against. No, we live in the real world, and these ICE officers, these CBP agents, these federal officers should be able to continue their work without impediment, without obstruction. If you have an issue with the policy, take it to court, lobby politicians, win elections, get the laws changed. But as it stands right now, you have absolutely no right to be engaging in felony obstruction. These officers are operating well within their jurisdiction. It's the supremacy clause. You may not like it, but they have the authority to be going into these states and conducting these immigration raids, and you should not get in the way of that physically, aggressively, and certainly not with a freaking firearm on your waist, then resisting arrest because, yes, things like this can happen, especially freak occurrences with a potential misfire, totally out of your control, out of the ICE agent's control, and then you get tragic cases like this. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got. I don't know if we cracked the case just yet, but we may be potentially on to something. Let's follow the investigation, the facts, where they lead. Let's not get emotional about this stuff, and let's just see what happens. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Okay, give me 1 second, folks. I gotta find the other link. I know I had another one in there. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Here it is. This is another good. I like this take specifically. I probably think this is probably one of the best takes I've seen. I like the other guy's take too. I think it's more accurate. So there's that. All right, here we go. This one's good. This one's only like 10 minutes, so it's not gonna be long. Not like that first one.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. I was flying back early this morning from Las Vegas. Got online.
After this, we'll watch. We'll get into the Signal Gate story. All right, here we go.
Started going through the exosphere, saw about what had happened with yet another terrible incident taking place in Minnesota. Now, of course, everyone immediately rushed to judgment and came to their own definitive conclusion, right? This is cold-blooded murder, or this is completely lawfully justified. We're not going to be able to get there, and candidly, it'd be a little irresponsible to try to do it. But I do think there's another legal angle, one that nobody really seems to be talking about, but one that, candidly, I think we need to have a serious discussion because, well, it's the precipice for all of this. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about the real legal issue with ICE shootings that no one is talking about. Okay, America, we are talking about this incident right here as we play this over the top. We're playing it over the top because we're not going to sit down and do a frame-by-frame breakdown like some have, and I always appreciate how people want to slow a video way down and say, aha, it definitively proves something, when in fact they will be judged on what they perceived, in real time, all right? Now, I admit that there are certainly some issues here, especially when you take a look at this video here, that potentially or possibly shows the now deceased being disarmed before the fatal shots are fired. However, there could be other explanations. So many people had commented that the officers were already yelling that he had a firearm. The one officer who disarmed him may have not been able to announce in that chaos that he had been disarmed. Other officers see him reaching for the area where they believe the firearm to be, and we end up in this terrible situation. And there will be an opportunity to go over what the law says when we know exactly what happened. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. There are some that have suggested that, hey, merely possessing a firearm while contacting law enforcement is a great way to get yourself killed. I strongly disagree with that statement. There are very few, if any, incidents of people just being shot and killed for merely lawfully possessing a firearm. No, oftentimes it is actually the behavior they're engaged in simultaneously to possessing the firearm that often turns out to be the problem, and that's what I kind of want to focus on today. And the reason I want to focus on it today is that the Patty Murrays and all the other liberals out there in the world immediately wanted to say this was cold-blooded murder and proof that we're living in a totalitarian state. But the question I want to ask all of you is, are we really moving towards a totalitarian state, or are we already living in an anarchist state? Because every one of these tragic yet preventable incidents are all precipitated by what? That's right, illegal activity of those that ultimately turned out to be the victims. And when I say victims, America, what I mean is they are in fact victims of their own poor choices. You see, every single person who's been injured or worse yet killed in a manner such as this was engaged in what activity when that occurred? That's right, they were intentionally obstructing, thwarting, and hindering otherwise legal ICE operations. In every single one of these incidents, even this one here that we're talking about today, there was a litany of people, a couple of which turned out to become the victims here, that were engaged in the activity of intentionally trying to thwart, obstruct, delay, or otherwise hinder any type of deportation and immigration efforts. Is that a crime? It most definitely is. In some instances, does it constitute a felony? Yes, it does. In some instances, would it be considered a felony which is being committed upon the person of another individual, this being an ICE officer? So the answer to that question is yes, it would. Oh, and then, by the way, when you're taking a look at the 4 reasons upon which we can use lethal force, you will see that if you are having a felony committed upon your person, in almost all jurisdictions, that will justify the use of lethal force. But again, we're going to have to see a lot more facts before we can truly make an educated assessment there. But is this dangerous behavior? Yeah, it certainly is. Is it irresponsible behavior, reckless behavior? It most definitely is. But I also said it was illegal behavior. How you say? Well, let's start here. Anyone who hinders, obstructs, delays immigration efforts, or even attempts to or conspires to do so is guilty of a criminal offense under 8 United States Code Section 1324. And we have actually talked about that statute on several occasions. But guess what? If these actions to hinder, obstruct, or delay ultimately result in you coming into contact, physical contact with a law enforcement officer that could then be deemed an assault, now we're talking about a violation of 18 United States Code Section 111, which states that it is unlawful for any person to forcibly assault, resist, oppose, impede, intimidate, or interfere with any person designated in Section 114 of this title while they are engaged in or on account of the performance of official duties. And then when you take a look at section 1114, it lists all of these other statutes which cite to particular administrative agencies. And yes, Immigration Customs Enforcement is one of them. Now, how much trouble can you be in? Well, according to the very same statute, where the acts in violation of this section constitute only simple assault, be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. And where such acts involve physical contact with the victim of that assault or the intent to commit another felony, be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 8 years or both. And listen, if you don't believe that to intentionally hinder, thwart, delay, obstruct immigration efforts is a crime, ask now former Judge Hannah Dugan. Now, I also figured, hey, might as well take a look at Minnesota law, right? And I found a statute that almost gets us there, and that's Minnesota Statute 609.50, obstructing legal process, arrest, or firefighting. And it states, it is unlawful for anyone to obstruct, hinder, or prevent the lawful execution of any legal process, civil or criminal, or apprehension of another on a charge or conviction of a criminal offense. And you're sitting there going, well, that completely covers it. Yes, however, when you take a look at how Minnesota state law defines peace officer, it does not include any federal law enforcement agencies other than recognized tribal police inside the state of Minnesota. But even if it did cover it, we'd of course have to ask ourselves, would they really prosecute any of this activity under Minnesota law? And that is actually the great segue for what I want to really talk about here, because let us remember that all of this activity, as dangerous, as irresponsible as it is being advocated for and promoted by who? That's right, local politicians right there in that community and elsewhere. You literally have not only local politicians, but politicians on the national level advocating for unlawful, dangerous, and oftentimes felonious behavior. And anyone who has advocated to stop these deportation efforts by whatever means necessary ultimately has some blood on their hands as well. And you can take a look at other types of law enforcement instances that were controversial at times. For example, in the 80s and 90s when the DEA and LAPD were kicking in the doors of crack houses all the time. You could take a look at how federal authorities went and rounded up some of the January 6th defendants. But at no time in either of those two moments was there literally an organized effort of people who oftentimes have driven in from the suburbs, from their cushy little bedroom communities into other communities to go out then and intentionally thwart, obstruct, and oftentimes place federal law enforcement officers in danger. This is not an advocacy for the immigration policies because we don't need to get into that here. What this is an advocacy for sanity. Is there an opportunity for people who are opposed to this to fight these immigration deportation efforts? There absolutely is. But those battles occur either in the courtroom or in the halls of Congress, not on our streets. So, America, the question I have for you, are we really heading towards a totalitarian state, or are we already living in an anarchist state? Okay, listen, we're going to go ahead and link up some of the videos in case you guys haven't seen them and we're living under a rock for the last 24 hours or something like that. They'll be linked up down below. And yes, as we learn more information about what actually truly transpired here, we will probably get a video done where we can take a look at what happened and apply the law to that. Now listen, if you got any questions about this or the stuff we normally talk about here at Washington Gun Law, you should know how to get a hold of us by now. But if you don't, that's okay. That information down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, cool. Click on that link right there. Tell us all about it. If you want to subscribe to the monthly newsletter.
That's that. All right, so what else we got here? Okay, so that was 3 different videos about what went down the other day. And then we got this also from 2 days ago, confirmed by people that were, I think these people live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They're citizens. And they were driving through, or yesterday while driving, we were followed by multiple vehicles for over an hour. We were told that we came up in the local ICE Watch group's ICE database. You hear us confirm to them multiple times that we are not ICE. At one point, they asked for our IDs to see who we were. Insane network they are running here. Never seen anything like it.
We're not ICE. I'm showing my face. I'm not. They've been following us for over an hour. We're not ICE. We're just letting them know, and they.
Not in an ICE vehicle, right?
No. Right.
Right. Get in your truck and get the fuck out. Why? Because you need to go. Confirmed ICE. Get the fuck out.
Confirmed ICE through who? We're American citizens. We're not ICE.
These are the people that you're abducting. Get out. Why are you filming us? Please go.
Because they've been following us for over an hour.
Why are you guys here? What are you here doing? Why are you guys here? Where do you live? Where are you from?
The protest is public property. What are you talking about? Did you come in that car right there?
Yeah, this truck. And they're saying we're popping up in an ICE database.
Well, then you're in it. We're not.
What's the database?
Get the fuck out of here, then. Do we look like ICE still?
No ICE. Nothing on me. Prove it.
We're not ICE.
I don't have no weapons. Let me see your IDs of where you live.
No, they've been following us. That's why we got out and confronted them.
Great.
You think that's okay?
Yeah. You're not welcome. 100%.
Okay. I'm curious about
our neighborhood. Yes. 100%. Yes.
I'm curious, I guess, how you get into an ICE database.
We're not ICE. Okay, thank you. So you're messing it up. ICE.
Shit's getting scary out there. And this is the kind of shit that's happening to citizens. Like, Minnesota residents, too. I'm sure. Like, so, here, now we're getting into the signal gate. This is going to blow your mind, folks. This just dropped yesterday, or day before yesterday, I believe. Minneapolis signal infiltrated. I have infiltrated, this is by Cam Higby. I have infiltrated signal groups all around Minneapolis with the sole intention of tracking down federal agents and impeding, assaulting, and obstructing them. Buckle up, all will be revealed. Each area of the city has a signal or several signals. Let's start with a screen recording of all members of the South Side group to start. Okay. Hold on, let me rewind this. There we go. There we go. It's no audio, but that's fine. We don't need that. We don't need the audio. You can slow it down if you want. We'll slow it down here in a minute because we go down one last time so you can all see it. That's pretty good. How in the fucking hell did that shit even happen? What are the odds? That's crazy how that shit, I mean, all right, so that's, what the heck? That's concerning. All right, let's get into here. I'm going to let I'm going to stop sharing real quick so I can get the screen recorder to read for us real quick. I got to give it permission. So go ahead and just give a few short thoughts, Robin, with your take on it.
Well, this is another terrible tragedy. Anytime that individuals are killed, that's a heartbreaking thing. I believe in the sacredness of human life and, in fact, all of life.
and it breaks my heart to see someone um, get unalived for what they're doing. But my take on it is that what is happening is we have an orchestrated breakdown of the of faith in the American legal system, and God knows there's nobody that has more doubts about how our legal system works in this country than I. I've seen so much criminal activity in courts by court officials that I'm pretty jaded when it comes to that. But the reality is that these are not matters of the government acting out of accordance with the attempt to bring justice into the community. The government is acting in accordance with the reasons that, I live in a community that has been deeply affected by the influx of illegal aliens. Aurora, Colorado is a Tren de Aragua stronghold.
You were witness to the madness of the apartment complex takeover, the multiple apartment complex takeover there, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I live in the I live in the neighborhood close enough to be able to drive, 10 minutes and see where apartment buildings were taken over by Tren de Aragua. And there's a huge area of this town that I live in that has gone from a thriving business community to to buildings that are it almost looks like a war zone. I mean, it's all trashed and graffiti everywhere. And I if I drive around the city, I see victims of the drugs that have come into the community. Fentanyl. I see people that are actually have slumped over and are unconscious in a like sitting on a step, and a guy just has like fallen over to where he's still sitting there, but his head is down at his calf, and he's completely passed out on the street, just sitting there. I've seen a guy standing next to the
Fentanyl,
highway
fentanyl, fentanyl
that
makes
is
them look
just
like they've
it,
turned into zombies almost.
yeah, he's in a dream world, and he doesn't even it doesn't look like he's aware that he looks totally under the influence. He's not able to stand normally at all. He's staggering around. His head is drifting in every direction. I mean, I am, and the supermarket where we shop, we've had people that accosted us and demanded that we pay for their groceries.
Wow.
We've had uh, loudspeakers installed outside the grocery store that say, lock your car, take your keys, put all your valuables where they can't be seen from outside the car. If anyone comes up to you, don't, you,
Right.
because it's
That's scary.
dangerous. I mean,
That's
this is
scary.
the reality that I am in the city that I live in, which is part of the greater Denver metro area that is sanctuary city controlled. And because I have contacts within the police department, I know exactly what's going on. I know that there are people that are arrested. These are that when illegal aliens are arrested because of the sanctuary city status, they are not prosecuted. They are released without they go to court, and the judge releases them immediately. There's no prosecution. There's no trying for their crimes. They are not held over in jail because they've committed whatever crimes they've committed. They are released, and I know this because I have contacts in the police department that have told me, yeah, I see the same guy might come in 3 times in a week
for a different crime, a different crime, a different crime. And several times a month, we'll see the same people come in because the judges just release them. And ICE is not allowed to go to the jail and pick them up when they're released. They're not allowed to contact ICE and say, got this very dangerous immigrant person that's, an illegal immigrant that has been committing crimes, and I've seen him 7 times in the last 3 months. And as a police officer, they can't contact ICE and say, come and pick them up, or they lose their job. That's the way the laws are written in this state and in this area. And as a consequence, the it's a dangerous area to live in, where it used to be a pretty nice city. It used to be a pretty nice place to live. And now we face this situation that is absolutely untenable. So I
Absolutely.
understand that what we're
I
looking
got
at.
the permissions on this, so whenever you're ready to wrap it up, we can get into this because I want to get into this segment too for sure.
All right. Well, it
This
is
big-
a real problem. And the fact that people are
That was a good story. I
acting
wanted
as
you to tell
though
that.
our government has just decided to become a totalitarian nightmare and they're killing people in cold blood in the streets is simply not true. But the certain segments of the broadcast media are pushing that narrative so hard that a lot of people are believing what they're getting from their television. They're envisioning a world that isn't real, where our government is the whole problem, and they don't understand that our government is dealing with a real problem, and so they think the problem is the government, and here they are defending the illegal immigrants. And many, many, many times these are criminals that need to be taken care of, that need this situation has to be remedied. And we've got people that are fighting against those law enforcement personnel that are charged with doing that, and they're interfering.
Right.
Watched a Bronco game on the big multitron. It says "Get louder," and why is that? Well, it's because they want to throw the other team off on their rhythm. But that's what's happening in America when you're trying to do a job that is a high pressure job, very dangerous job, where you're dealing with people that may very well be armed, have weapons, and people are screaming at you, people are calling you names, people are blowing whistles in your ear all day long while you're trying to do this very dangerous job. It's all designed to escalate, and the victims are the people that are persuaded to interfere with the law enforcement that's trying to do their job, which is
Yeah, I blame the leadership. I blame the leadership too. I don't necessarily blame the protesters. Uh, I
no, this
definitely
man, it's
I
a
want
tragedy
accountability
because
for
he looks like
I
a
want
lovely human
accountability
being.
for the leadership. I want to see these bastards behind fucking bars for what they've done. I swear to God, dude. Like, this is bullshit. This right what we're about to get into, folks, is really, really, really nails the case down. So, let's dive in.
Cam Higbee, United States. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. I have infiltrated organizational signal groups all around Minneapolis with the sole intention of tracking down federal agents and impeding, assaulting, and obstructing them. Buckle up, all will be revealed. Each area of the city has a signal or several signals. Let's start with a screen recording of all members of the South Side group to start. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. I have been undercover inside the groups for days. You'll notice emojis next to people's names. Here's a key for what those emojis mean. The highlighted positions are the most crucial. Most are self-explanatory. Mobile patrols spend their entire shift searching for suspicious vehicles. When they find one, they send it to the group so that plate checkers can compare with their database and see if it's a known federal vehicle or if the patrol can make the confirmation so that the database can be updated. Dispatch runs a maxed-out call all day telling protesters where ICE has been spotted and how they can be best impeded. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. For each occupation or shift position, protesters have to undergo training. It's unclear what the training entails, other than numerous slides of instruction. I've seen it mentioned repeatedly. Who is paying for all this? Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Each chat, for a specific part of each city, has smaller districts broken up within it called patrol zones, which guide ICE chasers on where they should be positioned. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here is a screen recording of their plate database as well as a link to its instructions. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here is a screenshot of the active dispatch call. It's always active, as well as a shift change. You can see folks are changing their emojis, clocking in and out. I'll also attach below a video of dispatch actually tracking the vehicle I was in, claiming that we were confirmed ICE. They constantly misidentify vehicles. Pay attention to emojis tagged on plate checks. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here is a recording of protesters actively tailing the vehicle I was in, labeling me as ICE and instructing commuters, ICE chasers, to follow me. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. A new group chat for each zone is made each day. The chats are dated and deleted at the end of each day. This is likely to avoid detection, record keeping, and consequences. By midday, the group chats hit maximum capacity, 1,000 people, allowed by signal, and people who are not chasing federal agents are asked to leave to create room for those who are. The dispatch calls also reach maximum capacity constantly. I believe it's 50 people maximum, which means, at any given time in each small zone, there are 50 people chasing agents. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. The quasi-police force uses a system called Salute, which calls out the size of federal units, activity, locations, uniforms, times, and locations. They then instruct their ICE chasers to follow and confront agents at their known locations. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. They are everywhere and local police are cooperating. Here an observer calls out a possible agent but says she's just out walking her dog so can't continue on. Dispatch called for backup. Also below is a message indicating that local PD may get involved if ICE hinders public safety. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. These thugs apparently have a home base, though I haven't been able to identify it. Here's an ICE chaser indicating that he is expected there. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here are chasers discussing what should be done after realizing they positively identified my vehicle as ICE, but then found out it was me. I believe this person might be the aggressive individual in the second photo. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here is more dispatch chatter, where they tweak out when they discover a vehicle. Whistles and horns can be heard in the background. The dispatcher asks for photos and videos of the plate for documentation purposes. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. The protesters use a mutual aid system. I tried to join the mutual aid that for Bloomington. An admin told me that it was a vetted chat for teachers and that I'd need to describe my relationship to a school and give my real name. I couldn't do that, so I never made it in. Why are there teachers aiding in this effort? Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. ICE chaser operations go all night. The dispatch call is 24/7. These are messages screenshotted at 2 a.m. asking for observers at a location with potential illegals. It's from a vetted chat called Wolfpack. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. The coordinators frequently delete messages to cover their tracks. This is another layer of security on top of the daily chat refreshes. Thread revolving light Minneapolis signal infiltrated. Here is an admin list for several chats. These generally consist of code names. Missing some tweet in this thread? You can try to force a refresh. Stay in touch and get notified when new unrolls are available from this author. Twitter.
Okay, so there's that. This is by Gun Shy Martyr. This is like one of the guys that infiltrated some of it. So basically, I think they, as a group, they went in there and did their thing, which is freaking amazing. It's freaking awesome. All right, so meet Flan Southside, aka Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanigan, dispatch admin of the Signals chat group. Of course, Anita Smithson would include her to the group to run dispatch operations. Still figuring out who Boogie is. Maybe it's Tim Walz. So let's take a look at this. Here it is. Boogie. SS Minneapolis, obviously. Flan Southside. Earn South Minneapolis. Dove South Minneapolis. So there's that. Peaceful protests, huh? This is. Why is this so big? I don't like that. I need a smaller one. This is when they realized that the network was compromised, allegedly. Update: the networks are freaking out. This is 3:22 p.m. Yesterday. Signal is not secure. I worked in communications. Once they figured out where we were, it's only a matter of time. Flan has been exposed. We're all fucked. I need to leave this state. Pardon my language. Now, we're going to go to this one. Here's Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanigan with her Monarcha emblem necklace, telling people of her involvement with the documenting and identification of ICE agents as part of being on the ICE watch group. The best part starts at 2-minute mark. So I'm just going to get into that because that's more important and more relevant to the context of this. But
hey, you are.
Anyways, let's go right.
Resilient. We take care of one another, and when things get tough and you come for us, we face it together. Our incredible Attorney General has filed a lawsuit alongside
Volume's really low in this, but you guys
to get ICE out of our state, and that work is continuing. On the local level, I'm asking you to sign up for a legal observer training so that you can protect your neighbors when they need it. Our phones and our ability to document unconstitutional behavior is one of the most powerful tools that we have in this fight. The Immigrant Defense Network and Monarcha both offer trainings for folks to learn more about their rights and how to become legal observers. I've taken the training and I hope that you'll join me. And for folks who are watching outside of state, please contribute to these organizations who are doing the important work here in Minnesota. And please make sure that you are sharing, that you keep calling your representatives, and that you keep peacefully protesting because we need everyone. Miigwech.
Wow. That's pretty telling. Then there's this. The insurrectionist signal network is back up and running at about half strength. This is as of today at 7:21 a.m. Here's a handy dandy handbook instructing you on how to join said network. Stay tuned. More signal gate drops coming. Make sure to follow. And I've already gotten all these sources for this shit from their link earlier. And it's the training manual, all of it. It's not looking good for Lieutenant Governor Flanigan there. Wow. New protocols for ICE chasers have dropped on Signal. This is as of 2:34 p.m. This afternoon. Good morning, neighbors. This is Dispatch Livid clocking for this 5 to 7 a.m. shift. If you are patrolling this a.m., please join the patrol call so that we can best assist you. Reminders for commuters: say your handle name every time you unmute. Don't share info about your vehicle, real name, address, or workplace in the chat or call. Car patrol is much safer with a co-pilot. Best practice is to disengage and return to your loop when ICE gets on the freeway. We can relay their direction, but we don't need to, and then it goes on. And there's this one. Also, there's all the recent name change and join leap logs. Haven't gone through names to see if there's anyone fun. So there's a bunch of new people we can potentially see who it is. So that's going to be interesting. Yes. Okay, so that's their latest tactics. Apparently they're still doing it too. So let's check this out. This is a clip from Benny Johnson with Cam Higby today at 8:52 a.m. was when this was dropped.
This is clearly a coordinated infrastructure, and we'd like for the feds to take a crack at trying to get rid of this infrastructure the way that they approach the mob or other or cartels or other terrorist networks, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And again, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
Wait, you want to see something real cool?
Please,
real quick?
please, real fast.
All right, real fast. This is dispatch.
Sorry, I just switched. M3 was driving. I just dropped him off, and I am in the North Loop commuting back to Hawthorne shortly.
Okay, thank you. Last person I want to check in with is Maria R. Can you tell me where you're at and what's going on?
Wow.
That's live dispatch call.
So that's them live coordinating where
Yep.
ICE is?
Right now. Yeah, that's them right now looking for ICE.
Unbelievable. This is clearly a coordinated infrastructure, and we'd like for the feds to take a crack at trying to get rid of this infrastructure the way that they approach the mob or other or cartels or other terrorist networks, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And again, they're still doing it.
They're still doing it.
Wait, you want to see something real cool? Real quick?
Please, real fast.
All right, real fast. This is dispatch.
Sorry, I just switched. M3 was driving. I just dropped him off, and I am in the North Loop commuting back to Hawthorne shortly.
Okay, thank you. Last person I want to check in with is Maria R. Can you tell me where you're at and what's going on?
Wow.
That's live dispatch call.
So that's them live coordinating where
Yep.
ICE is?
Right now. Yeah, that's them.
Wow. Okay. I believe that's all we got. Oh, I just dropped my vape. Apologies about that. I don't know if you guys heard it. The audience probably heard it, but it's all right. You want to go and chime in and start off with the conversation, Robin, for a little bit, and then I'll chime in.
Well, we're talking about a live coordinated effort to interfere with the legal authorities, and what people are doing is dangerous. They're getting in the way. I mean, if you've got a bunch of guys that are armed and dangerous, and they're involved in doing their stuff, and you go in and you start hollering at them and blowing whistles at them and interfering with them and trying to obstruct them, what do you think is going to happen? That's a foolish thing to do. If you really believe that we have a bunch of, that basically our government has turned into a terrorist organization, that it's a bunch of totalitarian fascists that are willing to use any means necessary, then why are you going head to head with them unless you've got a death wish? That is the and of course the answer is, if there's a way that by putting myself in harm's way, I can protect others, then there may be a justification that makes sense to me. And I may say, well, that's the cost of freedom. That's the cost of, but the reality is that this is a false flag. It's a phony threat that is manufactured by propaganda. Even the first guy that's like, oh yeah, I used to be in the military and I know about this stuff and so I'm going to use objective terms. Even he then goes on to absolutely blow that whole idea out of the water, that there's any kind of objectivity in what he's saying, by the way that he formulates and presents the data to support the narrative that the government was in the wrong. This is cold-blooded murder. Well,
yeah,
that's it's not that cut and dried, and it's and the people that are paying the price for fulfilling the wishes of, and it really is about the Democratic Party flooded the nation with illegal aliens so that they could build their voter base, so that they could get more representatives that would all be Democrat, and so they could pay people off through our public infrastructure that uses tax money to support them, and then that would be Democratic voters. They could win their states, so they could maintain and grow their power, and now,
Yeah,
and
no,
then
it's
they
starting
built
to
a
make a
whole
lot of sense to
system.
me.
They
It's
built a
starting to
whole
make a whole lot of
propaganda
sense.
system to support this system of taking power and holding it. And that's what these victims are victims of, is that infrastructure that was built to maintain and control the power structure in the United States by the Democratic Party. And to some degree, the Republicans have done the same, but in this case, the way things are now, it is widely, far and away, the Democrats that are much more involved in creating those structures and attempting to steal power from the real will of the American people by bringing in people that they can more or less manipulate through giving them public help and supporting them. I mean, we millions upon millions and millions of dollars went to house immigrants while
Yeah,
American citizens were starving on the streets. It's
yeah, no, absolutely. These are facts that you can look up, folks. Like, look up Medi-Cal in California. Look at other similar freaking programs in Minnesota. There's a lot of a lot of freaking fraud going on, like a lot of it, and it's not just happening there. It's everywhere in a lot of these states that are failing.
Yeah, and the fact that law enforcement is turning the other, turning a blind eye
I know what the
to
heck.
criminal activity by illegal aliens, when if I did that, they'd arrest me because I'm an American. But if I'm an illegal alien, they just take you in and go, "Oh, you're an illegal alien. This is a sanctuary state. Go back out there and commit more crimes.
Yeah, I don't think most
Off with
people
you, buddy."
realize that that's what they do. Most people think, oh, we're a sanctuary, we're just, but I never realized that they were actually doing that until I was able to confirm it through your source.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I know that's not something that you're going to hear in the liberal news media, because the liberal news media is promoting a particular agenda
And
that
so
is
is the
bought and
mainstream
paid
media.
for.
So is the mainstream media in general. Like, in my
Right.
opinion, Fox is a lot better than most, but they still have their own version of it. Their CNN is even worse. MS, what do they call it? MS Now, right? Not MSNBC
Yeah.
no more.
Yes, they basically saw my podcast and said, "Oh, that's a good idea. We'll just steal that." I said, "I'm media, we
Sure felt like
invented
it, didn't
media
it?
now
Sure felt like
world."
it.
And
It
and they
sure
said,
felt like
"Oh,
it.
yeah, that's really good. We need to steal that." And they did. I'm kind of,
It sure
one of
seems
these
like it.
days,
They
maybe
just
I'll be
switched it
able to
around.
mount
That's
a
funny.
lawsuit because I need to have it first.
I know that's kind of that's a little bit close. And I thought that was interesting too. That happened like right after freaking like a month after we set up his domain for
Very
his end.
shortly after we began using that, they changed their names. And, "Oh, that's the
Yeah,
best one we got. Let's steal it."
that's what they do. That's how they do. Anyways, yeah, no, it's freaking crazy, man. Crazy times we're living in. I can't believe fucking this time. I can't believe this timeline. This is the most insane timeline ever. But it's freaking. It could not be more poetically, more poetic justice in this timeline at this point.
Yeah, we're in
To
an
be able to
anarchist
be.
state. I think the guy was right about that. You
Do you know
know,
what I'm saying though? Do you know what I'm saying? Like this is a very scary time to be in. Like but at the same time, we have an opportunity to freaking to acknowledge what's actually going on here and try and hopefully have a civil discussion about it and freaking not tear each other apart.
well, our whole civilization is dancing on a razor's edge.
That's my point. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I don't
Yeah.
want to see us go down that freaking no. No.
No,
But we
no.
are very, very close to a freaking really, and this is no, we cannot
Yeah,
fucking do
people
this.
people look at look at look at America, and they want to call it this totalitarian system, and and they want to point the finger and say bad, 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 bad. But they're Americans raised under the protections and gifts that are given by this culture that we were born and raised in, and they are have therefore been sheltered from the reality that almost just about every other form of government in the world has many more failures and much more genocides in their history and background than the American way of life and the American system of government. It is an experiment, but the the reality is that if we don't make this experiment work, then what we're going to wind up with is something along the socialist or communist model where a very few have iron grip control over everybody. And then they'll understand what totalitarian really is because they won't have the freedom and they won't have the opportunity and they won't have the support of the brilliant American people who founded this nation and support it through their blood, sweat, and tears and lives, sacrifice lives to give it to us, this nation where we have freedoms. People don't realize the value of freedoms because they grew up with them. And now they're abusing those freedoms to say, oh, well, we can go right up straight up against the totalitarians that we despise being our government, who aren't totalitarians at all. They're following the rule of law. They're enforcing the rule of law. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing by getting people that are breaking laws under control, and people are running up against them saying, no, no, no. Well, talk to some people that have lived under a communist regime. Talk to some people that have come from the various socialist regimes. And once you have done that and you have a grounding in what the reality of those systems are, you may realize that what we have in America may not be perfect. It may be flawed,
It's
but
crazy.
it's
It's
far,
it's definitely
far
flawed.
and away
We got our flaws,
above
but
those
that's why
other
we work for
forms.
change. But we
What?
don't descend into. I said that it's definitely flawed. It's got its freaking it's bugs per se. It's issues with it. But that's why we are supposed to fight for change legally through legislation and nonviolent kind of like hello, what are we doing, people?
Yeah, it
Um,
definitely has its flaws, one of which is
it,
its
but that's why.
corruptibility.
But we don't let it descend into chaos and anarchy.
Right,
We
right.
we, ha- we
The
we
I
sit down
the
and we have a civil discussion and come to a consensus on how we're going to be in agreement.
what we
But
need
this
to
is
do
not
is
acceptable.
rebuild the support of a constitutional government
Yes,
rather
agreed.
than kick the supports of the Constitution out
Right.
from under government
Exactly.
and descend
Exactly.
into anarchy, which would
Because that's
lead
what would
to
happen.
real totalitarian dictators
That
coming.
would that would be exactly what would happen. The first
Yeah.
minute we do that.
Yeah, and that's what Democrats are actually pushing for
It sure
under
seems
the
like it to me.
guise of, oh, we're trying to make things better. They're making things so much worse. And the victims now are their own followers that are saying, oh, we've got to stop the evil in our government. And they're actually on the wrong side because they've been convinced of lies by the big money that's been poured into the media and the big money that's been poured into politics and that still is being poured into politics by the corruption whereby people are given huge amounts of money to go and commit crimes, and then part of that makes its way back into the pockets of the politicians to cover for them, to lay down cover fire with the population. And of course those same individuals are able to buy up the media, so you can't really trust your media. So when you can't trust your media, you have to go to citizen journalists like Stephen Phillips and Robin Austin, because we're media now, world.
And Gizmo. Sorry, I couldn't help it. He's so cute. He's my little puppy. He's my little scruffy puppy. Anyways, go ahead, continue.
Well, I think we have a good little mascot there.
Yeah, we do. Sure do. Everybody meet Gizmo. He's got a
Hey, Gizmo.
white diamond little spot on the back of his neck and all the white paws and the white belly and the white on his neck. So
Hey, that
just like
reminds
Gizmo
me
from
of
Gremlins.
a
That's why
little
we named him
what are they
Gizmo. Bad in
called?
the ears, huh, boy? Huh, buddy? Yeah, this is crazy, man. I mean, there's a lot freaking to even think about and consider, and there's so much more I want to get into, everybody, and there's so many more things I want to show you guys. But it's been late, and we just maybe got about a little over an hour and 30 minutes in for the live. We got that through all that pretty quickly, actually. I'm surprised how quickly we got through all those sources, because that was a lot.
That was a lot. That was a lot. And it's a lot to think about. And these
Yeah.
are real tragedies that are happening to real people.
Yeah,
My
no one's
heart goes
disputing
out
this.
to every one of those people that are being affected by this. And don't go up against the government by trying to fight them in the streets. That is not the way to do it.
No,
Go
definitely not.
and elect public officials that aren't telling you, hey, go put yourself in harm's way to try to stop our government from doing what it's supposed to do. Don't don't elect those people to office. Do not put
Right.
people like that in
Well,
office. It's,
just look at what's happening in Virginia right now. The new governor just got in, and they've already done and changed a bunch of laws and made it so that. Oh my God, it's so disgusting. I don't even want to get into it right now because we can say that for another day. But they've done the exact opposite of what they said they were going to do when they were campaigning. The governor who won there
I
already.
haven't even looked at it. I have
Oh
so many
well,
things in my
it's
own
freaking
life. I
it's
don't
really
spend my
really.
life
Oh,
looking for this
of
stuff.
course they did. Of course they did.
Yeah. Well, you've got people in government in Minnesota saying, go disobey your federal government. Go fight against them, citizens of the state.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
not acceptable for
and
any governor
you
to do
have to
that. That's
understand that these are the same individuals that are from the state that has huge, massive, gigantic fraud that apparently there are elements of the government that were colluding with that fraud and probably profiting massively from it. And now you're listening to those people that probably were involved in the fraud and are probably the beneficiaries of it in a big way because they're probably being paid off to funnel money into the fraud. And now those people are telling you, go fight against those people that are here because much of this massive fraud was committed by illegal immigrants that came to our state and have defrauded you, the taxpayer, of your money and your livelihoods so that they could drive BMWs and Porsches and Maseratis and live on welfare. It's that's that's the real situation that we're facing, and we're facing it so poorly and so badly because we're not being told the truth because we're all, the people are listening to the mainstream media that's been bought up by the same interests that are trying to undermine the the true um, uh, system of economics that is foundational to America, which is capitalism. Now, there's monopoly capitalism. Marx was right about monopoly capitalism being a
been bugging
bad
me
thing.
all day barking at me
But when there
every day.
is a free market economy where people are actually in competition to build things, that's the way that things get built in the most efficient way. You take away those financial incentives for people to gain the fruits of their efforts, and you undermine the whole system. And then you have people that do not want to do any more work than they have to. And that's communism, socialism, other forms of government where you don't see the innovation. You don't see the miraculous invention. You don't see the economic growth because the engines of innovation are personal incentive being rewarded. And that happens in a capitalist system. And so, the idea that we have to cut the knees, cut all the billionaires off at the thighs because they have too much is a lack of recognition of the fact that for every billionaire you see, there's probably several million people that earn their livelihood and benefit from the activities that that individual is responsible for. And so we're blinded to the truth because if they can keep us fighting with each other, then we forget to look at where the reality is of who's doing what to whom that's causing our misery. And they keep us ignorant by giving us misinformation. They keep us blind by only showing us what they want us to see. And they keep us deaf and dumb by telling us, teaching us, over there are your enemies. Don't look at us, look over there. Over there are your enemies. It's ICE. It's the government. Over there are your enemies. It's the immigrants. Over there are your enemies. And really, it's the politicians that are organizing the whole thing to point away from them, who are behind arranging the whole structure to build power so that they can rob the people of what they really rightfully own, which is the infrastructure of government, the infrastructure of the country, and the infrastructure of industry in the country. And the fact that we're restoring some industry to this country under Donald Trump is a great blessing to the nation, which I certainly hope is amplified and moves forward through people recognizing the truth and beginning to build a better America under the sponsorship of a different kind of approach to government, which is what we're seeing.
Right. No, it's one of the biggest political shifts in my lifetime, most certainly, and in the last 100 years, I would say as well. I mean, it's on such a massive actual grassroots level. Um, anyway, so it's fascinating. It's crazy about how far we've come. There were times when I thought we'd never get here, and here we are. I mean, the internet's changed a lot. It really has. It's changed the game. It's definitely changed the warfare landscape. The landscape of warfare. It's a lot of it's just information warfare at this point.
It is. It is.
Which the benefit of that is you never run the risk. Well, you do, but you have an ability to manage it a little bit better when you're in that kind of a scenario.
Yeah, as long as we have the possibility for a free information exchange, as long as we
It
have.
allows us to call out the mainstream media capture and lies in real time and show everybody, hello. Like, I mean, right now at this day and age, everybody should be checking shit for themselves. Don't take any source freaking seriously. Only verify for yourself and make up your own mind and go with that. But verify for yourself. Don't take anybody's word for it. Because nine times out of 10, you're being lied to from all sides.
Yeah.
The only way that you can guarantee that you can get to the truth is you have to freaking use critical thinking, objective reasoning, objective observational skills.
Well,
like
and no one is immune
there's
to
ways to do this.
When
Right? No, obviously not. But there's obvious objective standards that we obviously have to adhere to, and when it comes to prosecution and law enforcement of like what criminals and shit, right? For example, we have to have standards for that. My point is, there are scientific methods that we can, stuff that's already in place, and so one of those methods is, logical thinking, critical thinking, but most importantly, don't make assumptions and don't take for granted that anything anybody says.
And do your best to keep an open mind until you've
Do
examined
your own research.
all the evidence that is available to you to examine. I mean, I look at myself, and as I went through the evolution of watching the various videos about the event that we talked about on today's program, I went through this evolution of going, oh man, that was cold-blooded murder, to oh no, maybe not. Oh, maybe. Well, now there's a whole nother way to look at it.
No, dude, I was there. I witnessed it live. I saw you. I saw it with you. I was like, yeah, dude, okay. See what I mean? I was like, I had a feeling that would happen.
Where you enter the conversation, who's saying what to you, that will be your initial understanding. You got to then temper that through a process of, okay, so this is what I believe. Is it right? Let's look at what the opposite view says. Let's look at what some neutral views say. Just as we did in today's program, we've looked at a variety of views to give our listeners the opportunity to build their understanding to a level where they can now have many more of the facts, many more viewpoints upon which to base the formation of their own opinions. Because don't believe what you're told. A guy says, oh yeah, I'm objective, and it was cold-blooded murder. That's not objective. That's not, because there is no objective when it comes to human behavior. You can't go inside that person's head and go, yes, this person was thinking this, and that's why they did that. You don't have the ability to do that. So to project and say, this guy is guilty of these thoughts which led to these actions, you're lying. You don't know. That's not objective. Don't call
Right.
yourself objective if that's what you're going to then try to support. You can't know. He lost his objectivity as soon as he made that judgment call. Um, and so, so you really do have to look deeper. You have to look more carefully.
Right.
And to form
Absolutely.
an opinion is a dangerous thing to do because quantum physics says once you decide something is a thing, you have creative ability that manifests the thing you see.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, that's been my experience of it as well. We manifest our what we expect
Yeah.
a lot of the time. Anyways, that's a little more spiritual and philosophical matters of higher consciousness talk there. So that's a separate subject for another day and another
Well, and I think
podcast. But yeah,
it's
I totally.
important to bring that
I feel
kind
the
of
same. I think
perspective to
I believe that
bear.
as well.
I think it's important to bring that kind of perspective to bear
I
because the
agree.
truth is we are all spiritual beings having a material universe
Physical
experience.
experience, yes.
And
Yes,
so,
I agree.
I think it's important to keep that touchstone of, well, there is a spiritual aspect to our existence on this earth, and if we lose touch with that, then we're losing the most fundamental aspect of our own nature and of the world around us, and that's a dangerous thing to do.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, it is. We need to be we need to just take a step back, take a deep breath, use some critical thinking skills, not rush to judgment, try and be objective from our emotions if possible. Look
And
at the facts.
do your best not to put yourself in harm's way
Yes,
because
agreed.
of a belief system
100%.
that may or may not
Everybody.
be accurate, may or may not correspond to reality, may or may not be true.
Thank
Don't
you.
put yourself into harm's way based on the agenda of somebody that is
Or
talking
somebody else
to
or
you and
anybody else.
persuading
Yeah,
you.
don't let ever put yourself into position like that because that's just wrong to intentionally manipulate their own populace to distract from fraud that they're actually complicit in. Like, what the hell's going on here? That's the only explanation at this point.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that we've got our own state government rebelling against our own federal government while the federal government is investigating the proven
State
fraud
government,
that's taking place in the same state government we're talking about.
right?
Oh, well, I wonder why they're trying to stir the people up against the federal government. It's
You
kind of
think?
clear, isn't
It's
it?
kind of obvious.
So don't buy it. Don't buy into it. Wait until the dust clears. Wait until the dust settles, and you get a clear view of, oh, okay.
Yes.
So the state government's really involved in the fraud. The fraud goes deep into that, and that's why all these people are standing up saying, "No, you need to don't knock them down. Don't let them do this. Kick all those ICE agents out because they're going to expose our fraud."
We don't throw out
That
we don't
may
tear
be
up
the
the
real game,
Constitution
you know?
because a tense situation happened and someone got killed. Like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
It's
Sorry, people, but we're not. We're not tearing up the Constitution and we're not burning down the country. I'm an American too. I want to be prosperous. I'm a capitalist. I believe in being prosperous and I believe in free market economy. I am against the corporate conglomerate corruption and all that, but that's fucking like globalist shit. That's not real freaking, free market
yeah,
economy.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, the
Anyways, I just wanted to point that out because I could only aspire to want to become a billionaire someday. That would be great. I could do what I love and not have to worry about money.
well, the other thing is that
Not that I
when
would
I
love the
become a
money
billionaire,
because
I
I can
will
still
be
survive
able
without
to
it.
do a lot more good for a lot more people.
Thank you, thank
That's
you,
the truth.
thank you.
And that's my every intention is, I want to be that billionaire that's kind of undermining the undermining of the people by promoting health and promoting
Counter
the
revolutionary.
the ability of people to raise themselves up and fulfill their destiny and become as great as
Right.
they can be, because
Absolutely
that's our real potential, is
true.
to
I agree.
unfold our spiritual potential into our physical universe so that we become prosperous, healthy, wise. These are things that
Right.
are good to have. And
Correct.
we need to embrace them and rise into them and lift ourselves up and lift our fellow up and our fellow human beings up so that we all can prosper and be in health, even as our
Right.
soul prospers. And that's
Absolutely.
my
Absolutely.
goal.
Everybody has the freedom to life, liberty, and prosperity. You know, and that includes people's ability to start their own businesses, become their own bosses. You know, but like myself, I'm an entrepreneur. But news is not my main field of trade. I'm a software engineer by trade. That's what I actually excel at. This is more like a passion project, hobby kind of thing. I do my way to give back to the community. So, and we got News for Us World and Media Now World. Basically, two news organizations, grassroots, and basically we're going to be covering a lot of the same stuff. But we're going to be we're affiliates, you could say. Yeah, affiliates.
Yes, we are, you and I. We have
Affiliates
a
is the right
kind of a mutual admiration society.
pretty much. Anywho, we'll cover this again live soon, folks. This is a big obviously ongoing developing story that's just broke in the last 48 hours. So we should be. We're gonna start. I'm gonna aim to cover this as often as I can when I can after I get some more updates and look into this. I'm actively looking into doing some covert work myself. I gotta get in there. I gotta get some action, man. I have an idea, but I'm not going to say anything on that just now on the air. So we'll get into that once I've got something. Good night, everybody. And you want to finish off the line?
Absolutely. When the corporate media is lying to you, when they have let you down because they don't let you in on the truth, it falls to citizen journalists to bring you what really is happening in the world. And that's where Stephen and I come in. That's where you come in. This is the world where anyone can get on their phone or their computer and let the world know what's happening, because in a world where you can no longer trust the corporate media, it falls to citizen journalists to take up the torch. We are Media Now world.
Good night, everybody.